Welcome to Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I'm your host, Allison Preisinger-Heggins. The mission of this project is to take notice, to listen, to hold space by amplifying Black stories, experiences, and voices. Conversations on family life, finding joy, and interests of folks in our country who encounter racism on a daily basis. A portion of these discussions will be dedicated to holding space for guests who are comfortable sharing their personal experiences with racism. Stories help us all learn and connect. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. Let's take a moment to recognize, to take notice of the voices that are so often unheard. Land acknowledgement statements are an important part of honoring those whose land we now live and work on. I have chosen to begin each episode this way to spark ideas and keep these conversations in the front of our minds so that we may learn how to do better. I would like to acknowledge the land on which I created this recording and the recording of the interview in this episode. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Tulalip, Snohomish, Stillaguamish, Sauk-Suattle, Shoalwater Bay, and Chinook tribes, recognizing that these names are not the original names of the people of these areas. As I continue to learn how to better acknowledge Native people of these lands, I will adjust the wording of the beginning of each episode. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. So this is the very first episode we recorded. This was back in August of 2020. My wonderful, patient husband allowed me to practice my non-existent interviewing skills out on him multiple times to test out the equipment, come up with the flow for these episodes, and to include him on the project, which I'm really grateful to be able to do. I think it might be harder, though, to interview your significant other than someone you don't know at all. So there's that. But you may notice that the format in the episodes are a little bit different than in this episode. So there's also that. It's morphed a little bit even since then. I'll probably always do a little bit of a forehead smack every time I listen to something older, but that is just how these things go. Darius has been my sounding board for this project since the very beginning, offering advice, guidance, and encouragement. A huge part of this project is for him. So I want to acknowledge all that he's done to put this into the world and everything that he's put into this and encouraged me to do. And so I just want to thank him very much. Also, his music, Darius's music, is featured in each episode. That intro and outro you hear is from Darius's song, What Matters. So for this episode, if you hang out at the very end of the episode, you can hear the full track. So let's get right to it. Please enjoy this episode with Darius Heggins. Take Notice would like to take the time to acknowledge Black-owned businesses, organizations, and artists. If you have a suggestion of who we should highlight during our episodes, please find us on social media or visit our website. Take Notice invites you to follow and support Langston. Langston is a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization established in 2016 to lead programming within the historic Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute in Seattle. Langston guides generative programs and community partnerships that center Black art, artists, and audiences and honor the ongoing legacy of Seattle's Black Central area. They support a variety of enriching programs across multiple disciplines, rooted in the following mission and values: to strengthen and advance our community through Black arts and culture, to cultivate Black brilliance by sharing culture, promoting artistic expression, encouraging artistic excellence, facilitating cultural education and possibility, cultivating leaders, practicing radical inclusivity, thriving as a self-determined community. To follow and support, visit langstonseattle.org. So we are married, but other people don't know you as well as I do. So if you can just introduce yourself a bit, tell the listeners whatever you would like to share, and we'll go from there.
My name is Darius Heggins. I'm a father, first and foremost. I worked for the Seattle School District for about 2.5 years, and then I became a dog trainer, which has been a lot of fun, and I'm still building my business, Natural Concepts Dog Training, right now, but it's doing pretty good. I'm a musician, if you can call it that. I just kind of do studio work for the most part.
And you reside in the Seattle area, but right now we are living in
Arlington, yes.
North of Seattle, a more rural area.
Yeah, it can be interesting sometimes.
Well, it's also interesting because we're just at home all the time.
Yeah, it's true. COVID.
So we don't really see the community that much.
Yeah.
And then you grew up in the Seattle area. So what was it like growing up in Seattle for you? Did you hopped around a bit and everything? What areas did you live in, and what was your youth like?
I grew up down in the Rainier Valley and Seward Park area. I also did a stint in Juanita and Issaquah too, but it was all learning experiences. My dad lived over on 16th and Madison, and my mom lived more near Seward Park. So Columbia City, Rainier Beach High School, all of that. And went to, Nova and a school called AS1. It was interesting growing up with the confines that I grew up in. It wasn't just the area, but also the family dynamic that myself and my brother were living in. That made it very interesting. My brother's older. He's white, and we have different fathers, same mother. My father was there and gone for the most part. My father, I am what they would consider mixed, but I'm a black man through and through. And growing up, even though we grew up in the same house, we definitely had two different lives. My father was in and out of my life, most of my life. We still had, in the end, a good relationship. My brother's father, I thought that he had met him, but it turns out that I was wrong. His dad was not there, and I'll leave it at that. He wasn't there, but I guess recently they were able to connect, and so that's been really good for him. But it was interesting, when we would be with my mom at the store, or when we would go to certain places, go to the beach and have a good time. People couldn't believe that we were brothers. They would make comments or what have you. And my brother was always very proud to have me as his brother, as I am to have him as my brother. But we had different lifestyles. I remember when we went to Hawaii, and I fit right in. I had my locks. I still have my locks. People can't see me, so I was long locks, middle of my back. A lot of Hawaiians took me for Hawaiian. And my brother, so they were very open to me, but my brother, they saw him just as a white guy. And so he did not, it was almost like reverse racism in a sense, because they were very open. What's happening, brother? What's going on? Oh, come on in. What can we do for you? And then my brother would say, hey, how's it going? And they would just look at him as if he was a terrorist, They did not like him one bit. And so that made my experience was good in Hawaii, But his experience, I wouldn't say it was horrible, but it was challenging. So it's interesting in that dynamic, because when we were growing up, it was the complete reversal. He being white was in this society was fine. They just saw him as another white kid. But me, I got that and still do get that look. I even got it today going to Petco. I walked out and there was a dude who had his mask on, and he was just looking me up and down as like, who are you type of thing. And I just said hi, and, walked on by, and it was that, it was such a small thing, but I think that that's what racism and prejudice and things of that sort for a black man, that's what it is. It is a consistence that we have to deal with, and we learn in our own ways how to deal with it. And what does that mean? And what are the different levels of dealing with it? And I learned, I guess, my relationship, and that's what I'll call it, a relationship with racism. in my travels, I've learned that sometimes you must just allow it to be in that moment and pass on. And then there's other times, depending on the height of it, that you need to get down and dirty. So today, it still happened, but it was such a small thing. It was just, hey, how's it going? All right, bye-bye now. Never see you again.
It makes me wonder, or what you thought you saw as reverse racism. That thought and that idea makes me curious of what your thoughts are on that, because what I've kind of come to understand about that term or that idea is maybe different than yours. I don't know, because to me what I've learned is there can't be reverse racism, because why is it that those Hawaiian people were treating your brother that way? It's not the same as why you are treated differently in the Seattle area or in where you were growing up. Right?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it is an unfortunate fact that throughout history, Europeans have created what issues we deal with today. And it has transpired over generations. So my brother, being in Hawaii and calling it reverse racism, not in the sense of that, just to get my words clear. When we're here in the States, racism is very prevalent towards us consistently, as I've said before. But being in Hawaii, it was a flip. Yes, the Europeans pretty much conquered Hawaii, and they even today, they still do things that I don't know about government-wise, prototype-wise towards the Hawaiians, taking their land and doing all these things. That is a constant. I understand that. But over my travels and the knowledge that I've gained for myself, and there may be some that don't agree with me, and that's fine, is that we are not, though we still have the same prototype structures that we have to deal with that are serious matters. I get pulled over, I could lose my life. That's a serious matter. But also, we have come to a time where we have more multicultural families. We have more families that have a white mom and a black dad and a black mom and a white dad and kids and people that are trying to just live their lives as people and be peaceful and just be. So we have, in that instance, going back to Hawaii, my brother is he's a good guy, and he is very open. I don't remember out of everybody in my family and every racist thing that I have been through and prejudicial thing that I've been through in my life, my brother has never been a part of that, ever. So when we're in Hawaii, they didn't see that. They just saw a white person. And that is the same, even though there's these reasons, that is the same as when people see me and they think that I am just a criminal, or I am just this, or I am just that, or they have to be afraid of me because of some ideal that they have. They're not stopping to get to know me. And in that circumstance, if they would have actually opened themselves up to him the same way that they did with me, I think they would have found that he was actually a good person, a good human being, and those traits that they were seeing were not necessarily there. And that is a huge part of what we are dealing with now. And I won't get too far into it, but really, we've come so far and have so many multicultural families. We have so many cultures intertwined that we cannot look on the grassroots level, person to person. It is difficult for me to look at a person and right away say, oh, you're just a racist. Now, I'm not talking about the structure. The structure is racist. The president, as far as I'm concerned, is racist. The system that has been built on racism. This all has an effect. That ideal is changed over time once again, but that is what we're dealing with. That is the ideals that we're fighting against every day.
Is there a moment that you were thinking of if sharing for this episode of when you have encountered racism?
Absolutely. One of the many prevalent moments is when I was in Issaquah High School, and I was in a teacher's class. I had issues at that high school to begin with. I had teachers treat me definitely less than the others. I had a teacher kick my bag across the floor because it was sticking out of the table, and then ask somebody else to please move their bag. That was a situation. But the biggest thing is when I was with my friends and I had a shirt on that I think it was a big tapestry type shirt, and it had in one section had this marijuana leaf on there, and the teacher took myself and my friends back and asked me to flip the shirt out inside out, and said that was inappropriate. And I said, why? It was so small you couldn't really see it. It was like you had to be up close and pinpoint. And I just said, well, I don't see why. And he says, I'll send you to the principal's office. And I said, that's fine. I'll talk to the principal about it. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm in your class. And he stated with my friends there, one was Hispanic and another one was white, I believe. And he says, well, you're not going to pass my class anyway. And I said, well, dude, what are you talking about? Just kind of gave him a look. And he's like, you're not going to pass my class because you're black. And my friend, who is Hispanic, just flipped and was like, what? What did he just say? What? And I remember after class was done, that was pretty much it. He was upset and said that was wrong, because in his mind, if he's saying that to me, what about him? So I actually approached the principals and told them of the situation, and they just said, oh, it was fine. He must not have said that. You must have heard wrong. And I was the one that pretty much created this story in my head to get back at him, and nothing ever came of it. And it was after that day that I decided to do homeschooling, and I was done. I was done with high school. And I had gone to Cleveland High School, which was completely different. Cleveland High School was a high school that you had to watch what you say and who you say it to, because you could get beat, stabbed, or even shot at the drop of a hat. That was just the area. That's what it was. But there was a lot to learn in there. I saw, with this long hallway, I saw segregation. To where I walked through the door, long hallway, it was break. There was Hispanics on both sides touching back to back, shoulder to shoulder, down maybe a third of the way. And then there was black folks, male and female, all of them, touching shoulder to shoulder with the Hispanics, continuing down along the way. And then way down at the very end was a couple of white folks doing the exact same thing. None of them wanted to recognize each other. The ones touching, so a Hispanic male and a black male, touching shoulders, touching backs, both looking the opposite way as if they were not there. And that was very interesting to see, because I don't even know if they recognized that they were doing that was a thing, And I'm sure it was just cliquish or whatever, but I remember that.
It was Cleveland. You went to Cleveland before you went to Issaquah, right?
I did, yeah.
And you had mentioned your dad was in and out for, most of your childhood, right?
He was, yeah.
So was that you were staying?
I was with my dad.
When you were at Cleveland?
Yeah.
And
then I some things went down and with him, and so I ended up moving back to my mom's.
And that's when you were at Issaquah?
That's when I was in Issaquah, Yeah.
Your story about what your teacher said to you, do you remember who else was anybody else involved and anybody else aware besides your friends that were there when your teacher said that? Were they able to, chime in about it or anything?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, that stuff happened all the time there. Mm-hmm. That type of foolery, I'll call it, happened all the time. And I mean, there's only a handful of us.
Is it true that for you, encountering racist moments or racist people, whether they are aware of it and very blatant or not, is that a daily occurrence?
It can be. I mean, you never know when it's going to happen. It is consistent. And there's times when people go out of their way. And then there's times when people just don't realize that they're being racist or they're being prejudiced. They just don't have that comprehension.
Do you have any thoughts on what would make you feel genuinely equal?
Being able to feel free to be me and respected for me, which involves my culture, involves my skin color, involves my personality, involves all of me. Because really, that's what everybody wants. We get caught up with this and that, but when you break it down, that's what everybody wants. And what does that look like? How can we get there? Consistently we have, the next generation is going to do better. Father tells a son, and then that son grows, and that son tells his son, and so on and so on and so on. Well, I choose to not get caught up in those ideals and to try and be free and show others freedom, if that makes sense. And a lot of people will probably think of that and be like, man, you're crazy. What are you talking about?
Well, if that's what your answer is and that's true to you, then that's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, I think in everybody's hearts and whoever's listening to this, I think it's true for them too. People want to be who they are and be expected, be respected for who they are, and be treated with value for who they are and their culture and all of their being. I mean, when we have our close friends, that is our feeling. That person that we are so close to sees us. But then we look at society and we put our armor on and we have to deal with racism. We have to deal with all that stuff. And that is the part of the core, is that we know that those people or in those situations, they don't see us. They don't see me. And there's people that go out of their way not to see me and respect me, and yet they want respect.
Do you have anything else that you wanted to share today that we missed? I
don't think so. I think that covers it. I could talk for days about all kinds of stuff, but I think that's good on my end.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you have more stories that could be shared too, and maybe we'll have to just do another episode at some point.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Just get them all out.
Yeah?
No.
Well, you know where I live.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Darius, for being my first interviewee for this podcast, and thanks for sharing your stories.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. It would really help us out if you could take a couple of minutes to review our podcast. Thank you for your support. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger-Heggins, co-produced by Amanda Ray. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Heggins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.
Screaming revolution has come. Revolution, yes it has come. Don't burn down your own homes, no, that is insane. Take our rage to the heads of state. Break down the gates, say no, we won't cooperate. As long as taxes rising high, stressing out our brains. Working every day like modern day slaves. Our equality and justice fading away. Leaving no home for humanity. Prices are so high that we can barely hold a cent. When the facts are clear, you say they're inconclusive yet. You take away our rights and say we're wrong to vex. Every little action causes a reaction. Time for revolution is here. On a unified front, yes, we walk together, never forgetting what matters. us to that.